So now that the Democratic convention is over, we've seen a slew of polls showing that Hillary Clinton, she got a post-convention bounce, and she seems to be doing pretty well. In fact, she's now beating Donald Trump by about 7 to 8 points. Some polls getting really close to being in the double digits. Now, in some of those polls, they asked some pretty granular questions. Sometimes they do that, right? For example, what's the demographics of the people involved in the poll? Now, that actually turns out to be a very important question. And they also break it down by, gender, who's voting for Hillary Clinton, who's voting for Donald Trump. Is it white men? Is it black women? Whatever, right? They just kind of break it down, right? Now, one of the ways that they broke down some of these polls is they ask whether or not if you're a Bernie or bust person, if you support Bernie Sanders, and if you're going to support Hillary Clinton come November. Now, there's a group of polls taken before the conventions and then taken after the conventions. So we looked at both of those. We looked at the pre-convention polls, looked at the post-convention polls when it relates to Bernie Sanders supporters. All right. So in the polls taken before the convention, and they were done by CNN, Marist, and YouGov. Okay. So 3 different polling organizations, and actually at least 2 different ways of doing these polls, which is very interesting. Now, before the convention, Hillary Clinton was winning about half of Bernie Sanders supporters. Now, that's when Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, the third-party candidates, the Libertarian and Green Party tickets, were included in these polls. And look, they should be included in these polls because they are an option. And actually, they're a bigger option this cycle than they ever have before. We've seen a bigger uptick in support for libertarians and Greens than we have in any election cycle that I can remember. So, now let's get to the numbers here. Now, 57% would vote for Clinton per the CNN and Marist poll, and now 44% would vote for Clinton in the YouGov poll. This is pre-convention. Now, you got to notice that that's pretty different, right, than what Clinton supporters have been saying. Even before the convention, right? And I'll get to the numbers post-convention to show my point. But pre-convention, you had Hillary Clinton supporters out there saying 90% of Bernie Sanders supporters are voting for Hillary Clinton. Now, the Huffington Post has reported that, and of course, Clinton surrogates and supporters online and everywhere else are parroting that line and saying, "See, look at that, Bernie or bust. You are irrelevant. You are irrelevant. You don't matter. You're just being crying, whiny babies." Well, it turns out that that very poll misleading. Surprise! In that poll, they asked Bernie Sanders supporters if you had a choice between just Hillary Clinton and just Donald Trump, who would you pick? Well, most Bernie Sanders supporters aren't stupid. Apparently 90% of them are really smart people and say, yeah, Trump's a disaster. No, I'm not going to vote for that idiot. Yes, I will hold my nose. I will, take a shower afterwards. But I will pull the lever for Hillary Clinton. 90%. That's, of course, without any of the parties. Any of the independent parties, the Green Party, Libertarians, with none of them included. That's what you get. So to say that's fact, and to point to Bernie or bust people and say, you're ridiculous. 90% of Hillary Clinton supporters. Well, that's misleading. It's a very misleading poll. And so if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, don't use that poll because you sound like an idiot. Okay? I would rather you go out there and say, I'm voting for Hillary Clinton because I think she's better on such and such policy. I can accept that. Let's have a discussion on policy. Now, if you want to compare Hillary Clinton's policies to Donald Trump policies, Donald Trump fails almost every one of them, except for TPP. That is incredibly important. Donald Trump, not TPP. Interesting. And that kind of throws a wrinkle into everything because He's actually been honest about the TPP. And that's the only thing I'll give him credit for. Now, so, as I said, the polls pre-convention, about half of Sanders supporters would support Clinton. Post-convention, the same three organizations polled the same people again. What did they find? With Gary Johnson included and Jill Stein, Clinton polls at 69% per CNN, 65% Marist, and 49% from the YouGov poll with Sanders supporters. So now, without third-party candidates included, she moves from 79% to 91% among Sanders supporters. That's in CNN's polls. From 68% to 75% per Marist's poll, and from 59 to 65% in the YouGov polls. So that's without Jill Stein, Gary Johnson. Now look, that's a big difference. If you notice the CNN poll versus the YouGov poll, that's almost 30 points. Now why? Well, it's who they poll. CNN does traditional polls where YouGov is an online poll. Now remember, during the debates between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, CNN would run polls post-convention, or not post-convention, post-debate, and ask, who won? Well, every online poll found that Bernie Sanders would crush. Now, some places would go back and change those to make it look like Hillary Clinton had won. But when you check out all the different online agencies, Bernie Sanders always seemed to have won, and won by large margins. Same thing with the YouGov poll, right? YouGov is online. They ask people that are online, and most of the people that are online are millennials. Most millennials don't get, they don't get polled in the normal way that most people, and that sounds dirty, by the way. Yeah, they're not getting polled the same way. But anyway, look, a lot of them don't own landlines or cell phones. Well, a lot of them own cell phones, but they don't normally get picked in polls. So that's a bit of a problem. That skews CNN. That's why you see 91%. That's why you see only, what was it, 65% in YouGov surveys supporting Hillary Clinton with no other third-party options? That's why it skews. Now, let me give you some results of a different poll that actually just talked to millennials. Now, this was done in July, and it was a survey of millennials in 11 different battleground states. Now, this was conducted by Democratic pollster Andrew Bauman for Project New America and Next Gen Climate. Now, in this poll, they found that less than half, about 43% of millennial voters, would vote for Clinton in a four-way race that included Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Now, Trump, in that same poll, attracted about 24%. Now, of that 24%, I think most of them are just a pox on both of your houses. I'm gonna stick it to the Democrats because they put up the shittiest candidate that they could find against the shittiest candidate that the Republicans could find. We're gonna stick it to them. Well, you're kind of sticking it to everybody else. And look, I know a lot of people say, okay, well, look, don't reward Clinton for her corruption. I don't like the idea either. But you're rewarding Trump. Think about that. I'm just saying, you're going to the one thing that you're not supposed to do with a narcissist is to feed the guy's ego. I couldn't imagine the ego trip that Donald Trump will have sitting in the White House. Unbearable. But I'm okay. But anyway. Now, let's see. As I said, Trump attracted 24%. Almost as many picked both Johnson and Jill Stein. And the rest said that they were either undecided or they wouldn't vote. Well, look. You could either, for the people who said, I'm not going to vote. Well, don't stay home. You can leave the presidential picks, empty. But vote down ballot. There are progressives, there are Bernie-crats that are running right now. that need your help. Zephyr Teachout, Tim Canova. Those people need your help. So if you plan on staying home, don't. Go. You don't have to choose the presidential box. You can just vote down ballot and elect progressives. You can leave that blank. You could write in Mickey Mouse. It doesn't matter. You could write in Bernie Sanders. Will it count? I don't know. Maybe not. But at least do the down ballot because that's super important. Now, let's contrast that just a minute here with the 24% picking Trump, Johnson, or Stein. Remember, 7 in 10 millennial voters backed Bernie Sanders. A lot of those people were rallied behind Bernie Sanders. And this is where I fault the Democrats for choosing an incredibly weak, shitty, flawed candidate like Hillary Clinton. Now, let's get to Bernie or bust for a second. I know I've kind of mentioned it, but I want to mention it in the context of this poll. Now, that same survey showed about 1/5 of millennials would vote for Bernie Sanders against Trump, but would not vote for Hillary Clinton. 2/3 of them see no real difference between Clinton and Trump on the issues that they care about. Now, that's patently wrong. And like, if you care about healthcare, for example, or education, there are differences. Even on Wall Street. I know, right? Look, I've criticized Hillary Clinton on Wall Street. A lot. Because I think that there's a lot of areas in that she's wrong. But Donald Trump on Wall Street, aside from doing a tax on, I kind of forget what exactly the policy is that she's going to tax. I believe it's hedge fund managers. That's it. Hedge funds. Okay. Well, Trump wants to tax that too, right? But so does Hillary Clinton. They're both the same on that policy, which is actually a good policy. Sticking it to the hedge funders. Making them actually pay a tax on some of their income that would be counted as normal income instead of capital gains. I just forget the name that it's called. But on all other things, when it comes to regulation, yes, Hillary Clinton is in favor of things like Dodd-Frank. I've pointed out how Dodd-Frank is weak sauce. But it is better than no regulation. So there's a difference. It may not be a great difference, but there's a difference. Now, as I said, healthcare and education. I would posit that Hillary Clinton is the actual conservative in this race. And a lot of people would be like, yeah, she's a Republican. No, she's not a Republican. She's a conservative. There's a difference. You see, back maybe in the 1970s, 1980s, Hillary Clinton would be considered a Republican. That's back when they made sense. Before Ronald Reagan, before all that bullshit. Now we have the crazy stupid party. And guess what? The crazy stupid party picked the crazy stupid leader in Donald Trump. So there are massive differences here. And why I call Hillary Clinton a conservative is because she wants to conserve the status quo. Now, the status quo includes keeping things like Obamacare in place. That's good for a lot of people. Let's be honest. I know a lot of people who, or at least I know a few people personally, who right now would have a very, very difficult time if they didn't have the Affordable Care Act. Does it need to be expanded? Absolutely. Does it go far enough? No. No, there should be a single payer option. Okay. A public option or expanded to Medicare for all. I'd be okay if there was just a Medicare buy-in at this point. Okay. That's the thing. While she would keep Obamacare the way it is, Donald Trump wants to get rid of it. Oh, I see no problem with healthcare. I'll make sure people don't die in the street, says Donald Trump. Well, how's that going to happen when you're going to take healthcare away from millions of people? That makes no sense. You've actually got no policy. His policy is to get rid of Obamacare and then what? Profit? Well, someone will. And that's not to say that Obamacare isn't right now a huge giveaway to corporations. It's got problems. And nobody can deny that. But getting rid of it, not a good thing. There's a lot of people that are depending on that right now. So, in this case, Hillary being conservative actually will benefit some people, which is weird to say. Now, education. On education, she actually worked with Bernie Sanders to put forward a little bit more of a progressive plan than what she had previously had. She said she wants to make tuition free at public universities for people making $125,000. Is that a perfect plan? No. Is it the spirit of compromise? I would say yes. Working with Bernie Sanders to make college tuition free. That's kind of cool. Now, as I said, Trump, what would he do for education? Look, if you want to know what Trump did with education, all you have to do is look at Trump University. This man scammed people with Trump University. That tells you all you need to know when it comes to Trump's higher education plan. Okay. Now, basically, those two things aside, Trump's good on one policy and one policy only. He's against the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Hillary Clinton says she's against it too, but come on. She called it the gold standard. She worked on the TPP. The only reason she says she's against it is because it's politically toxic. Now, here's the trick. Here's what they're doing. And this is politics 101, guys. Is that President Obama has got a super high approval rating. He's the outgoing president. He wants TPP bad. He knows Hillary Clinton would be hurt by public support of TPP. So guess what? He's planning on passing it in a lame duck session. That's right. You heard that right. President Barack Obama will pass the TPP in a lame duck session. Now, how does that help Hillary? How does that benefit her? Well, she can go on saying, I'm against TPP, but it's not my fault. Obama did it. Thanks, Obama. And she wins politically. As I said, this is politics 101. This is Barack Obama saying, hey, I fulfilled my end of the bargain. You conceded to me 8 years ago. I put you on as Secretary of State. And then I'm just doing you this nice little favor before I go. So you don't have to publicly come out against the most corporate trade deal we've ever made. Politics 101, guys. Look, and this is why I say that we've got no good options in the two main political parties. Now, unfortunately, for those who might be saying, vote third party. Okay, well, you could. But right now, it's a protest vote. You've got to know that. See, the reason that I say that is because the third parties right now are not strong enough to actually beat the system in the cycle. Now, does that mean they shouldn't try? Of course not. They should totally try. And I give Jill Stein and Gary Johnson a lot of credit, especially since they've been getting pretty good polling. Now, a lot of people will look at 3% for Jill Stein, 9% for Gary Johnson and go, well, it sucks, man. No. In the context of third parties, that's excellent. That's amazing. We've never seen that before. So, don't discount them. In fact, Gary Johnson, he may end up deciding this election. So, keep that in mind. Now, as I said, even though they're not strong enough to win at this point, they're going to make a big dent. And actually, this could really help strengthen the third parties, the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, and actually becoming a national party. So, now in order to get that, they're going to need ballot access in all the states. They're going to need access to that national debate stage. They're going to need money. They're going to need infrastructure. And look, right now, they don't have a lot of that. And that's unfortunate. And also, the system itself is designed to work against third parties. Now, if we had a system, and a lot of people in the comments have actually reminded me of this, of saying, look, why don't we should have something like California's system of instant runoff voting. Okay, that would be awesome. Basically, it allows you to pick your choices in order, which is cool. That would allow third parties to be viable. Now, if we were to do something like that across the nation, I think that would definitely help, as I said, the third party system. These are things that we should fight for. These are things that we should push for. Now, if you really want to fight the two-party system, you can't really start at the top. Okay? You've got to remove the barriers placed by the system itself. Electing Gary Johnson or Jill Stein would be a huge occasion, but it wouldn't actually fix that. You've got to have congressional support. And what I suggest is, look, get yourself elected to lower offices and get in those committees. Infiltrate. Take it over. You go to those, lower offices in those committees where the power is, where they have the power to change these rules, and you change them. This is what we mean by political revolution. Because, look, at the end of the day, revolutions, they start at the bottom. They do not start at the top. Hey everybody, if you like this video, then please like this video and share. And if you want to see more like this, then please hit that subscribe button below.